You are listening to Package Your Genius, a conversation designed to give you clarity on your calling and serve as a catalyst for your career. I'm your host, Amanda Miller Littlejohn. Happy Sunday. Today is Father's Day in the U.S., and I would like to shout out my father, may he rest in peace, Wayne Earl Miller, one of a kind, an awesome human being, and a huge inspiration for my work. And I would also like to shout out my children's father, Mark Littlejohn, who is also an amazing human being and a huge support to my work. And it's something that he made me think about that is kind of what I want to talk about today. And that simply is a moment of gratitude he shared with me a couple of days ago. Or maybe it was yesterday. I don't know. These days are so dynamic. Who knows? Sometimes I don't know whether I'm coming or going. Literally am recording this episode while my kids are in their piano lesson. And I'm just like at their teacher's backyard garden. So you may hear some birds chirping. But anyway, he gave me a moment of gratitude around two different things, actually. He mentioned that he was really grateful for the time and effort I had been putting into coordinating our date nights, which is something I decided to do a few months ago because we consistently fail to have date nights. And so I said, well, if I make reservations and just kind of send him the calendar invite, even if we're both busy, as long as we don't have conflicting like meetings or events, we'll show up, because otherwise the easiest thing to do is default and just like not do anything. So I started pre-scheduling these date nights and sending him the calendar invites and, having dinners with my husband. I know it sounds super basic, but like sometimes it's just easier to get things done for the kids or go to sleep or do more work. And, you can easily neglect that. And when that becomes the case, I feel like it's a recipe for other things going wrong, because we are a team and we're only as strong as the effort we put into our relationship. So anywho, I had started going on Open Table and finding restaurants that I was like, oh, this is pretty close, not too inconvenient, close to his new office, pretty easy for me to get to, and started booking these meals. And we've had maybe 3 dates, I think. And honestly, I wasn't sure that I was going to keep them up because he didn't seem all that enthused about the date nights. Like, we would meet, we'd have dinner, have great conversation, but it just wasn't clear that he was even enjoying, like, I won't say that it wasn't clear he was enjoying it. Like, obviously it's a meal, we're spending time, but like, I figured, well, if I don't plan anymore, he probably won't miss them. He's not an overly effusive person, so he wasn't like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. And so I didn't get the sense that this was like blowing him away. I was enjoying having this dedicated time where I didn't have to necessarily share him with the kids, and we could talk about things in private and, just kind of catch up with each other without that like layer of just mental responsibility of making sure we're not talking about things that they don't need to hear about or whatever. Y'all who have kids know what I mean. But I just wasn't sure. I don't know. Like, I wasn't sure if he was feeling it. And I honestly was like, well, I'm taking some trips. I'm doing some travel. We'll probably have some weeks where we don't have the date nights. And when I get back, I'll figure out whether or not we'll resume. So that was one thing. He mentioned appreciating that. And I had been like asking him about camps. I was scheduling some camps and just doing some registration um, for the kids. And I had just mentioned to him like the totals for the different camps that I was signing up for, just to let him know like, okay, these are the charges that are going to show up on the card. Like, just so you know, FYI, I'm, spending several $1,000s in one day. Just want you to know what these are. And so he mentioned later, I'm just so grateful. You're so together. You've got the kids camps planned, and you found all these neat things for them to do, and you registered and got them signed up, all the basic mom stuff that we do, that number one, we don't know if anyone cares, let alone the kids, right? Like, did the kids appreciate the thought and effort that goes into cultivating them and finding activities that really speak to their personalities? But then when you're the person who is thinking of those things, you're not always aware that your partner recognizes the mental work that goes into figuring out what you want your kids to be doing, and then identifying those activities, figuring out the schedule to make sure that this doesn't overlap with that, and we have enough time, and we'll be in town, and this will be, good for them at their developmental stage, and the age range of the kids is right, and maybe they'll make friends, and what's the transportation situation, or am I going to be taking them? Will I be in town for the duration of this? Will I need to get someone else to take them? Will I need to get them to navigate public transport? Like, all these things that you have to think through, even though you already do these things. You take it for granted because you're just naturally doing it. When you are the partner or the parent who makes all of those calculations, it is kind of, it's that like uncelebrated work, those things we do that, you just do them because they have to get done, and you're not looking for applause, but also you're not really sure if they're appreciated, and if you're doing things because it's important that they are appreciated, you can say, well, I don't know if I'm going to keep doing this or not because I don't think anybody really cares. And so that was the second thing that he said. And then he mentioned some other stuff just about, I'm really proud of you and all the ways that you're stepping it up personally, with your friendships, in your business, the growth that you are experiencing in the academy, and with your corporate work, your book, all of the things that you're doing. And I kind of stepped back and said, wow, really? Like, I didn't even know that you noticed. And all of those things are the very incremental things that are easy to gloss over, even for yourself, right? So like, yeah, I booked the camps. Yeah, I booked the date nights. Yes, I'm growing my business and trying to make time for friendships and all these things. But I guess I didn't really think that anyone noticed, let alone him. And so I say that to you just to reiterate that we don't always know who is watching us or how our actions are being appreciated by other people, because most people aren't all that vocal about the value they're getting out of what you're bringing to the table. And so as that relates to your brand, I know a lot of us are in the throes of developing content and putting services together and pitching ourselves to clients and recording podcast episodes and, writing books or making some sort of offering to the world. It may be a course or a community we run. And if it's not at the size that we want it to be yet, we're still in that growth mode, it can be really easy to base our evaluation of whether or not it's working or whether or not we're making an impact on just the numbers. Like, how many people signed up? How many people bought the book? How many downloads did I have of the podcast? Or engagement, right? Like, oh, well, how many posts did that picture get? Likes, or how many comments did we get on it? And everybody who is paying attention is not necessarily saying that they are, and everyone who's getting value from you is not necessarily going to communicate that. But just as my husband didn't say how much he was appreciating date night or how much he was getting out of it, even though he came back and let me know that he was, the people in our lives that are getting something out of us or being inspired by our willingness to keep showing up day after day, or our creativity, or our self-sacrifice, our motivation, our support, our just being there from them, it's just a reason to keep going and to know that your work does have value.